My brother blew through his inheritance years ago, so now he wants half of mine or else he'll take me to court, saying the legal fees will drain me dry. Posted by you/Commerth. When my brother was 16 and I was 4, my grandmother set aside a share portfolio for us. As soon as we were old enough, it was transferred into our own accounts, and only 4 years later, my brother dipped heavily into his and bought a new Honda. I knew about mine for much longer than he did before it became mine, and I watched it grow once I understood what it was. By the time I was given full control, it was already worth a ridiculous amount because a big portion of it was invested in Apple, and I'm torn about using the funds locked up as they are because Dad drilled it into me to leave it to grow until I'm 40-something. I don't talk much with my brother. He's done some stupid things to the family over the years, and I didn't really grow up with him, so all I usually hear about his life comes through Dad. His new girlfriend works in law, though, and I've received a formal letter from both of them stating that the investments my grandmother made were intended for both of us to use, not just for me alone, and that his was only around $15,000. The number is correct, but mine was only worth that much at the time he spent it too. They want half of the value of mine now, and his girlfriend has informed me that if I don't give them access, the legal fees and fines would eat up my half, and I'd be left with nothing. The dividends alone support a huge part of my life, and they've saved me a few times. If half of that disappeared, it would set me back years. I know it sounds selfish, but I'm really used to having the extra income back me up when I've wanted to move. I've lived in 4 states by my own choice, and I want to move and take in more before I settle down, if I ever do. How likely is it that they'll win and leave me with nothing? As far as I know, there was no paperwork or will, just my grandmother's word. She set up my brother's accounts when he turned 19, but she gave them to Dad at the same time as my brother got his, and Dad transferred the whole lot to me 6 years ago. For my share, I have all the logins, the trading accounts and bank accounts are in my name, and the shares are all solely in my name too. Should I find my own lawyer, and if I need one, what kind do I need? I have an accountant I've used for years, but this doesn't seem like an accounting problem, more like a legal one. Update 1 month later. Mostly good news. I worked with my dad and got my own lawyer. I got the timeline of my shares wrong, but it turns out the same. What my brother and I inherited from my grandmother was originally part of my grandfather's portfolio. He was the money-savvy one. My grandmother looked after those after he died, and she personally set up my brother's accounts and gave him control of his part. She didn't do the same with mine before she died. I thought she had already set the accounts up for me and given control to my dad before passing. Instead, the shares were in her will, and she left everything she owned to my dad with instructions that what was worth $15,000 when my brother got his equivalent part would go to me when I was old enough to know how to take care of them. There was no trust, she just trusted my dad. My dad did the right thing and set up accounts for me and gave me control 6 years ago. My dad also put some of his own shares in as an extra leg up. Dad admitted to me that he'd chewed out my brother last year when he came to him asking for money. Dad had supported him several times over the years and had reached the point where he'd had enough. My brother found out I still had my investments because Dad had used me as an example of how my brother should have been managing his money. That's how my brother found out I still had shares and that they'd grown. According to all that information, my lawyer tells me I'm in the clear, but it's not going to get to the point of finding that out in court, as my brother's girlfriend was only a legal secretary. I say, was, because the firm she worked for apologized and informed my lawyer that she was terminated immediately. The letter I received from them had been edited to put her name in a position higher than it should have been, and some of the contact information had been changed. A week after she was fired, my brother visited me, begging for money. His girlfriend is in serious debt, and she took a chance on scamming cash from me and lost. I felt awful rejecting my own brother over and over, and if he hadn't involved his girlfriend needing an amount well into 5 figures, I might have given him some. The next morning, I found all my tires had been slashed. Screw him, I don't feel bad anymore. The rest of the comments in the previous thread made me realize I don't know nearly enough about what I'm doing with the shares, dividends, and money in general. A lot of the decisions I've made have been with Dad's help, and his advice has paid off well so far, but not because I knew it would, rather, because I had no idea what I was doing and left it up to him. I've booked an appointment to work with a financial advisor to make the most of what I have. Thanks for all your comments.